Have you ever looked at a struggling plant and thought, it's probably too late? Yellow leaves, weak growth, bare stems, few flowers, poor harvests, and a garden that simply doesn't look healthy anymore. Honestly, almost every gardener has experienced that feeling. You water more, you fertilize more, you try different products, and somehow, nothing seems to work. That becomes frustrating, especially when you've invested time, money, and effort into your garden. Now here's the hidden truth. Many struggling plants aren't dying. They're starving. That changes everything. Because starving plants often show symptoms that look surprisingly similar to disease. Yellow leaves, slow growth, poor flowering, weak roots, low fruit production. But the real problem isn't pests. It isn't bad luck. And it often isn't permanent damage. The plant simply lacks the nutrients it needs to thrive. And here's where things get interesting. Many of the most effective fertilizers aren't found in expensive garden center products. They're already sitting in your kitchen, your backyard, your compost pile, or even your recycling bin. Experienced gardeners understand something important. Nature has been fertilizing plants successfully for millions of years, long before synthetic fertilizers existed. Today I'm sharing 21 natural fertilizers that can help revive struggling plants, improve soil health, boost flowering, and encourage explosive growth. Some of these work surprisingly fast. Some improve soil for years. And one near the end has become a secret weapon among experienced gardeners because it feeds both plants and soil at the same time. Make sure you stay until the end, because several of these natural fertilizers cost almost nothing, and they may completely change the way you garden. Now, let's begin. Number 12. Rice water. Most people pour it down the drain without a second thought. And honestly, that's exactly why it's one of the most overlooked natural fertilizers on this list. Rice water. Simple. Common. Found in millions of kitchens around the world. Yet many gardeners have no idea how useful it can be. Now here's the hidden truth. Rice water isn't really about feeding plants large amounts of nutrients. It's about providing a gentle boost that supports soil life and plant health. That changes everything. Because many gardeners assume every fertilizer must be powerful to be effective. Nature often works differently. Small improvements applied consistently can create remarkable results over time. Most gardeners never hear this. When rice is rinsed, small amounts of starch, trace minerals, and organic compounds enter the water. Those materials can become valuable food sources for beneficial microorganisms living in the soil. And healthy microbial populations support healthier plants. Scientifically speaking, soil microorganisms help break down organic matter, improve nutrient cycling, and increase nutrient availability. In other words, the microbes help plants access resources already present in the soil. That's incredibly valuable, because the healthiest gardens aren't built on fertilizer alone. They're built on biological activity. Imagine two garden beds. Both receive sunlight. Both receive water. Both receive similar plants. But one contains a thriving underground ecosystem, beneficial microbes, organic matter, healthy soil structure. The other does not. Over time, the difference becomes obvious. Healthier growth, better flowering, greater resilience. Everything improves. Now here's where things get interesting. Rice water has been used in traditional gardening systems throughout parts of Asia for generations. Long before commercial fertilizers existed, gardeners learned through observation that plants often responded positively. Nature was teaching lessons long before scientists explained them. And honestly, many traditional gardening practices survive because they work. Imagine watering container plants with rice water once in a while. Not every day, not excessively, just occasionally. Over time, the soil becomes more biologically active. Plants respond. Growth becomes steadier. The garden feels healthier. That's the real benefit. Now, here's an expert tip. Use plain rice water. Avoid heavily salted or seasoned cooking water, and use it relatively soon after preparation. Fresh materials generally create the best results. Use the zones. Every zone, Every climate, every gardener can experiment with this one. And if you think a simple kitchen byproduct can help your plants. The next item has become one of the most controversial natural gardening products in the world. Some gardeners swear by it, others misuse it completely, and that's exactly why it's next. And if seaweed helps plants stay strong, the next fertilizer has been helping gardeners grow stronger plants since the days of early homesteads. And chances are, you already have some if you own a fireplace. Number 13, wood ash. Every winter, millions of homeowners throw away something their gardens could actually use. Wood ash. And honestly, most people never realize its value. Now here's the hidden truth. Wood ash isn't just leftover waste from a fireplace. It's concentrated plant nutrition. That changes everything, because when wood burns, many nutrients remain behind, especially minerals. Those minerals can become valuable additions to garden soil. Scientifically speaking, wood ash contains potassium, calcium, magnesium, and numerous trace minerals. Potassium alone makes it especially interesting for gardeners. Remember, potassium supports flowering, fruit production, and overall plant health. That's one reason gardeners have used wood ash for centuries. Most gardeners never hear this. Before commercial fertilizers existed, wood ash was often one of the most important nutrient sources available. Farmers understood its value, homesteaders understood its value, and experienced gardeners still do. Now here's where things become interesting. Wood ash doesn't behave like compost, or manure, or grass clippings. It influences soil chemistry. That means it must be used thoughtfully. Imagine adding small amounts of wood ash to acidic soil. Over time, soil pH gradually increases. Certain plants respond positively. Nutrient availability changes. Growth improves. But too much can create problems. That's why understanding the material matters. Most gardeners make one of two mistakes. They either never use wood ash, or they use far too much. Experienced gardeners choose balance, and balance creates better results. Now imagine a vegetable garden struggling with acidic soil conditions. Nutrients remain less available. Plant performance suffers. Small applications of wood ash, used appropriately, can sometimes help shift conditions in a more favorable direction. That's powerful, because soil chemistry influences nearly everything. Roots, nutrient uptake, microbial activity, plant health. Everything begins in the soil. Most gardeners never realize how much happens underground. They focus on flowers, vegetables, fruit, but the real story starts below the surface. Now here's an important caution. Not every plant appreciates wood ash. Acid-loving plants such as blueberries, azaleas, and rhododendrons generally prefer lower soil pH. Wood ash may work against those preferences. That's why observation matters, and knowledge matters. Good gardeners don't simply apply products. They understand them. Now here's an expert tip. Use only ash from untreated, natural wood. Avoid charcoal briquette. Avoid painted or chemically treated wood. Clean materials create safer results. Estações? Every zone. But soil conditions should always guide application decisions. And honestly, when used properly, wood ash can become one of the most economical soil amendments available. But if you think fireplace ashes are useful, the next fertilizer comes from something nearly every household discards daily, and gardeners have been quietly turning it into plant food for generations. Number 12. Rice water. Most people pour it down the drain without a second thought. And honestly, that's exactly why it's one of the most overlooked natural fertilizers on this list. Rice water. Simple. Common. Found in millions of kitchens around the world. Yet many gardeners have no idea how useful it can be. Now here's the hidden truth. Rice water isn't really about feeding plants large amounts of nutrients. It's about providing a gentle boost that supports soil life and plant health. That changes everything. Because many gardeners assume every fertilizer must be powerful to be effective. Nature often works differently. Small improvements applied consistently can create remarkable results over time. Most gardeners never hear this. When rice is rinsed, small amounts of starch, trace minerals, and organic compounds enter the water. Those materials can become valuable food sources for beneficial microorganisms living in the soil. And healthy microbial populations support healthier plants. Scientifically speaking, soil microorganisms help break down organic matter, improve nutrient cycling, and increase nutrient availability. In other words, the microbes help plants access resources already present in the soil. That's incredibly valuable, because the healthiest gardens aren't built on fertilizer alone, they're built on biological activity. Imagine two garden beds. Both receive sunlight. Both receive water. Both receive similar plants. But one contains a thriving underground ecosystem, beneficial microbes, organic matter, healthy soil structure. The other does not. Over time, the difference becomes obvious. Healthier growth, better flowering, greater resilience. Everything improves. Now here's where things get interesting. Rice water has been used in traditional gardening systems throughout parts of Asia for generations. Long before commercial fertilizers existed, gardeners learned through observation that plants often responded positively. Nature was teaching lessons long before scientists explained them. And honestly, many traditional gardening practices survive because they work. Imagine watering container plants with rice water once in a while. Not every day, not excessively, just occasionally. Over time, the soil becomes more biologically active. Plants respond. Growth becomes steadier. The garden feels healthier. That's the real benefit. Now, here's an expert tip. Use plain rice water. Avoid heavily salted or seasoned cooking water, and use it relatively soon after preparation. Fresh materials generally create the best results. Use the zones. Every zone, every climate, every gardener can experiment with this one. And if you think a simple kitchen byproduct can help your plants. The next item has become one of the most controversial natural gardening products in the world. Some gardeners swear by it, others misuse it completely, and that's exactly why it's next. Number 11. Epsom salt. Few gardening products generate more debate than Epsom salt. And honestly, that's because many gardeners misunderstand what it actually does. Now here's the misconception. People often treat Epsom salt like a miracle fertilizer. They sprinkle it everywhere, on everything, and expect dramatic results. But here's the hidden truth. Epsom salt is not a complete fertilizer. That changes everything. Because once gardeners understand what Epsom salt actually provides, they can use it far more effectively. Scientifically speaking, Epsom salt contains magnesium and sulfur. Both are essential plant nutrients. Magnesium plays a critical role in chlorophyll production, and chlorophyll powers photosynthesis. No chlorophyll, no energy production, no healthy growth. It's that simple. Most gardeners never hear this. Magnesium deficiencies can sometimes appear as yellowing leaves while veins remain green. Certain plants become especially sensitive to magnesium shortages. Tomatoes, peppers, roses, and some container-grown plants often show stronger responses. But here's where things become interesting. If your soil already contains sufficient magnesium, adding more may accomplish very little. That's why Epsom salt sometimes seems miraculous for one gardener and useless for another. The difference isn't the product. The difference is the soil. That changes everything. Because good gardening begins with understanding what plants actually need, not applying random products. Imagine a gardener struggling with magnesium deficiency. Growth remains weak. Leaves begin yellowing. Flower production suffers. A properly timed magnesium supplement may help solve the problem. Now imagine another gardener whose soil already contains adequate magnesium. The results will be completely different. Same product, different conditions, different outcome. That's gardening. Most experienced gardeners understand something important. There are very few universal solutions. Context matters. Observation matters. Understanding matters. Now here's another hidden benefit. Magnesium supports efficient photosynthesis. Efficient photosynthesis means better energy production, and better energy production often leads to stronger growth, healthier foliage, improved flowering. Everything connects. Imagine a rose bush entering peak bloom season. The plant is producing leaves, stems, roots, buds, and flowers simultaneously. Energy demand becomes enormous. Every nutrient matters. Every biological process matters. That's why nutrient balance remains so important. Now, here's an expert tip. Use Epsom salt only when a legitimate magnesium need exists or when growing plants known to benefit from additional magnesium under certain conditions. Moderation is critical. More is not always better. With the zones, every zone, every climate. Because magnesium plays a role in plant growth everywhere. And if Epsom salt generates debate, the next fertilizer has almost universal support among experienced gardeners. Because it doesn't just feed plants, it helps create some of the healthiest soil imaginable. And it's probably sitting in your compost pile right now. Number 10. Leaf mold. If you've ever raked leaves every fall, you may have thrown away one of the best soil conditioners nature has ever created. And honestly, most homeowners do exactly that. Bay after bay, year after year. Perfectly valuable organic matter headed for disposal. That surprises many gardeners. Because experienced gardeners see fallen leaves very differently. They see future soil. That changes everything. Now here's the hidden truth. Leaf mold isn't technically a fertilizer in the traditional sense. It doesn't provide massive amounts of nutrients, but what it does provide may be even more important. Exceptional soil improvement. Most gardeners never hear this. Healthy soil isn't built by nutrients alone. It's built by structure, moisture retention, microbial activity, organic matter, and leaf mold improves all four. Scientifically speaking, leaf mold forms when leaves decompose slowly under fungal activity. Unlike traditional composting, which relies heavily on bacteria, leaf mold is largely driven by fungi. The result is a dark, crumbly material capable of holding enormous amounts of water, sometimes several times its own weight. That's remarkable, because water management becomes one of the biggest challenges in gardening. Imagine two garden beds during a summer heat wave. One contains rich organic matter from years of leaf mold applications. The other contains depleted soil. A week without rain passes. The difference becomes obvious. One bed retains moisture. The other dries rapidly. One supports healthier plants. The other struggles. That's the power of soil improvement. Now here's where things become interesting. Many woodland ecosystems thrive because of leaf litter. Forests don't import fertilizer. They recycle nutrients. Leaves fall. Organic matter accumulates. Microorganisms work. Soil improves. The cycle continues. Experienced gardeners borrow that same system. And honestly, nature has had millions of years to perfect it. Most gardeners never realize how powerful leaf mold becomes over time. 1 season helps. 5 seasons transform soil. 10 seasons can completely change a garden. Imagine flower beds becoming easier to water. Vegetables becoming more productive. Roots expanding more easily. Plants surviving drought with less stress. That's often what happens when soil health improves consistently. Now, here's an expert tip. Collect autumn leaves and store them in a simple pile, bin, or wire enclosure. Allow time and moisture to do the work. Patience creates remarkable results. With the zones, every zone, every climate, every gardener can benefit from healthier soil. And if leaf mold helps build healthy soil, the next material may be one of the most concentrated biological fertilizers available anywhere. And the creators work underground, 24 hours a day, for free. Number 9. Worm castings. If compost is gardening gold, worm castings might be platinum. And honestly, few natural fertilizers have earned such a strong reputation among experienced gardeners. Now, here's the hidden truth. Worm castings are not simply worm waste. That description doesn't do them justice. They're actually highly processed organic material that has passed through one of nature's most efficient recycling systems. That changes everything. Because earthworms perform extraordinary work. Most gardeners never hear this. As organic matter passes through a worm's digestive system, nutrients become transformed into forms that are often easier for plants and microorganisms to utilize. The result is a material packed with biological activity. Scientifically speaking, worm castings contain beneficial microbes, plant-available nutrients, humic substances, and compounds that support root growth and soil health. Few natural materials offer such a complete package. That's why gardeners become so enthusiastic about them. Imagine planting two identical seedlings. One grows in ordinary potting soil. The other grows in soil amended with quality worm castings. Over time, the differences often become noticeable. Stronger roots, more vigorous growth, improved resilience, healthier plants. And healthier plants generally produce better flowers and harvests. Now here's where things become interesting. Unlike some fertilizers, worm castings are extremely gentle. That means gardeners can often use them without worrying about burning plants. The nutrients become available gradually, naturally, exactly the way many plants prefer. Most gardeners never hear this. The real value of worm castings often comes from biology, not chemistry. Beneficial microorganisms help create healthier soil ecosystems, and healthier ecosystems support healthier plants. Everything connects. That's a recurring theme throughout natural gardening. Imagine lifting a handful of rich worm castings. Dark, crumbly, earthy, full of life. Now imagine incorporating that material around vegetables, flowers, herbs, and container plants. The soil improves, roots expand, microbial populations increase, and plant performance often follows. That's not magic. That's biology. Now here's another hidden advantage. Worm castings improve seed starting mixes remarkably well. Many experienced gardeners include them when raising seedlings. Strong beginnings often lead to stronger mature plants, and stronger mature plants produce better results. That's a lesson nature teaches repeatedly. Now here's an expert tip. A little goes a long way. Worm castings are concentrated. You don't need huge quantities to see benefits. Blend them into planting holes, container mixes, or top dress around existing plants. Use das zones? Every zone, every climate, every garden benefits from healthier soil biology. And honestly, that's why worm castings have become such a favorite among serious gardeners. But if you think earthworms create powerful fertilizer, the next material has been helping gardeners revive struggling plants for hundreds of years. And many people already have it sitting in their kitchen right now. Number 8. Molasses. At first glance, molasses doesn't look like something that belongs in a garden. And honestly, most people think of baking long before they think of fertilizers. But experienced organic gardeners know something important. Molasses isn't really feeding the plants. It's feeding the soil. That changes everything. Because the healthiest gardens aren't powered by fertilizer alone. They're powered by life. Millions upon millions of beneficial microorganisms living beneath the soil surface. And those microorganisms need food. Now here's the hidden truth. Many gardeners spend years focusing entirely on plants. Leaves, flowers, fruit, vegetables. But experienced gardeners focus on something far more important. The underground ecosystem, because healthy soil creates healthy plants. Scientifically speaking, unsulfured blackstrap molasses contains sugars, trace minerals, iron, calcium, potassium, and other micronutrients. The sugars act as an energy source for beneficial soil microbes. As microbial populations increase, soil activity often increases as well, and healthier soil biology improves nutrient cycling. That's incredibly valuable. Imagine a city. The more workers actively doing their jobs, the more efficiently the city functions. The same thing happens underground. Microorganisms break down organic matter, release nutrients, support roots, improve soil health. Molasses helps feed those workers. Most gardeners never hear this. Natural gardening is often less about feeding plants directly, and more about creating an environment where plants can thrive naturally. That's a completely different philosophy. And honestly, It produces some remarkable results. Now imagine a struggling vegetable garden. The soil feels lifeless, compacted, inactive. Over time, organic matter, compost, worm castings, and occasional molasses applications help stimulate biological activity. Months later, the soil becomes darker, looser, more productive. Plants begin responding. Growth improves. Harvests improve. Everything becomes healthier. That's not because molasses is a miracle. It's because healthy biology creates healthier soil. And healthier soil creates healthier plants. Now here's where things get interesting. Many experienced compost tea users include small amounts of molasses during brewing. Why? Because beneficial microorganisms multiply rapidly when food sources are available. The process helps create biologically active solutions that support soil ecosystems. That's advanced gardening. But the principle remains simple. Feed the soil. The soil feeds the plants. Most gardeners never realize how important that relationship is. Now here's an expert tip. Use only unsulfured blackstrap molasses for gardening purposes. Small amounts go a long way. More is not necessarily better. Balance remains the goal. Use the zones, every zone, every climate. Because healthy microbial populations benefit gardens everywhere. And if molasses helps feed soil life, the next fertilizer helps build flowers. Big flowers. The kind of flowers gardeners dream about.